Good morning again, and welcome to Haaseline Entertainment, Revelation of the Spirit. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and maybe a share button, a thumbs up button. We appreciate any publicity that we get with the channel. We got some, as I said on the past one, we've got some great people coming on board. We just did an interview with industry affairs leader Denny Belcastro from Kimberly-Clark. Today, we are going to talk to Michael Sellers, a great director and producer and editor. He's got a huge resume in the industry. And I was able to work with him on a project that was near and dear to his heart, very minimal, but he is in the waiting room. So I'm going to admit him and we'll get this party started. So here he is, Michael Sellers.
Yes, hello.
How are you?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. Good to see you. How have you been? Can you hear me?
Good to see you.
Yeah. We got a little bit of an internet problem, but and it could be.
Let me see if I can fix it on my side. 1 second.
Yeah, I had a little problem this morning. We got a little weather here, but we'll get through it.
Can you hear me now?
I can. How about me?
Okay. Yep, I can hear you.
Well, it's great to have you, Michael. I've been introducing you before we got on, and appreciate you coming in early. As a guy who fills a lot of boxes, a director, producer, and editor, and I appreciate you letting me. We'll get to that. How you and I are kind of connected a little bit.
Yes.
But, welcome. How you doing in a pandemic stage, and and what are you doing lately?
Well, first of all, I'm doing good. Thank you for bringing me on and chatting. Yeah, I don't even know if we can call it post-pandemic yet, but it's somewhere in the pandemic. Doing okay, getting through it. I'm glad the weather is getting warmer, and it's a lot better than where we were at this point last year, I guess you could say, as far as the outlook and getting vaccinations out there and everybody feeling okay. I've been sort of reworking a little bit because of the pandemic of what I'm doing. I'm sort of jumping back into the editor seat for a while and getting some jobs that way. A lot of restructuring with some companies I worked for due to COVID. So, maybe those might jump back online at some point, but just trying to fill the gaps right now with work. But yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Very good. It's funny. I've been talking to a lot of actors and people in the industry about the COVID protocol. In fact, I'm going to be interviewing somebody we know, Michael Cutlets, here in a week or so.
Yep.
And he's doing the show Clarice. I don't know if you've been watching that at all on CBS.
I'm on episode 2. Yeah.
Well, I'm engrossed in it because I'm a big Hannibal fan, and Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
And he has such an unusual role than his last piece from the Walking Dead. But what's been the I guess as an editor, probably a little bit different. But how's the protocol been in the industry for COVID?
Well, in the beginning, everything just shut down. It was pretty much like, let's wait and see. I know one of the main companies I worked for pretty much disbanded. They sort of imploded a little bit. So I was out of work for a while. But then companies started to get back out there and really implement, these rules, basically, of masks, and they would hire people that are actually in charge of running COVID and making sure that on-set protocols are happening. So then they started getting back out, and those are some of the editing jobs that I'm getting, or some of these competition shows that are out there that we're able to get back out and do it right and come back with footage. So we need footage to edit, of course. So everybody's following the rules, I guess you could say, and we're getting stuff back in the post side of it. So it's slow, but it's there.
Yeah, it's funny how, and on the actor side, I guess Michael was telling me through a friend that how they've been, they get into a city and then they got a 14-day layover, to act.
Yep.
And then he's been in Toronto, separated from his family. I think he came back and saw them for Christmas last year, and now he's back, hopefully waiting for that Clarice to be renewed for another year. I was going through your resume a little bit, and man, you have been in the food industry, haven't you?
I has, it's kind of like a by chance sort of way that it happened. I was working at a commercial facility early on in my career, and we did commercials, and this company started MTV Cribs, and we did diary. We did a lot of fast stuff and a lot of quick stuff, and that was sort of my editing style. And then a woman came in that worked for Food Network, and I was assigned to her to sit down and do somewhat of a travel log documentary piece. And it was with Gordon Ramsay, believe it or not, at the time when he was just started breaking out. And I sat down with her, and we got done sort of, I was probably after 5-6 weeks of editing that. She sort of pulled me aside and was like, "What's your deal? Are you full-time here?" Like, just kind of investigating. And then I got a call from her later about offering me some freelance work outside. I would have to leave my company basically and go do this. But it was with Giada De Laurentiis and her new cooking show that was out at the time. And she was sort of breaking through, and I took a big leap and I said yes. So I went over there and worked with Giada and Irene, who owns the company. And we sort of did that for I don't know how many years. And then that just led to many other projects, and you're just sort of in the loop at that point once you do that. So worked with Bobby Flay on Throwdown since the beginning on that project, and all the way into Cooking Channel when that was debuting as a new network, and we provided a few new series for that called Unique Eats and Unique Sweets. So that has led me up to even directing and producing my own show called Man Fire Food on the Cooking Channel. So did that with the company as well. So that's kind of where it all brought me to.
Right.
And it just sort of evolved into that food world.
Right. And that's amazing. I didn't know any of that, so I did a little research on that.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about Man Fire Food. What's this new series now you're doing? I guess you're doing some editing stuff. Clipped?
Yeah, Clipped is a Martha Stewart hosts as lead judge, and it's about I think it's about 7 people that were in the show. I edited the finale, and it is about topiary and landscaping. And I think it's like one of the first shows where it's a competition style, where you've got to get your topiary and cut it up in however many hours. So it was crazy. It was very interesting. I actually learned a lot from it. But it's the first of its kind, and they did 6 episodes, and I guess they're going to see how it goes. But that was for Discovery Plus and HGTV. So I just got done with that, and I'm jumping on another show next week, actually. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we should have had Edward Scissorhands, and I guess my other big show from that is The Shining, huh? They did use
exactly.
Yeah,
the hedgerows, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So our connection was through Return to Hardwick, which was your your love feast. And I guess we got a lot to talk about there, but I guess in today's environment, and not to get into any kind of negative thing, but there obviously, we have a group behind patriots, and then we got some people that are not so patriotic.
Right.
And this just must be I obviously watched and owned a copy of it in my streaming library.
Yeah.
But this must have been just a godsend for the children and grandchildren of the folks involved for these patriots that you bring out in the show.
Yeah, and just to give a little background, I mean, it's on a particular bomb group that served in Europe during World War II. There were lots of bomb groups, almost, I think, probably 60 air bases in England at the time, where it was sort of a land aircraft carrier, if you will, that would fly off from England and go to Europe and do its job. And my grandfather was in the 93rd Bomb Group, and I attended many reunions with him. And I just sort of hung around him for the first few, and then I started helping out, volunteering and getting to know the guys there. And at one point, they had different projects they were going on. They would put memorials up in different cities. There was a stained glass memorial in Savannah, which is the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum. The 8th Air Force was in Europe. The 9th was down in Africa, and the 15th was over here in Italy. So they're all over the place. But that was sort of the beginning of where they had this idea of like, well, we've got all this footage. Maybe we need to do a documentary. And being in the business a little bit, I started getting interested and started listening and said, well, I could kind of help you and get this going. Now, in the beginning, I thought it was just going to be an internal DVD, and that's really what these things are, these reunions, because the people who know it show up and they sort of honor the veterans, and the second, third generation show up and they have fun hanging out and learning. But I didn't know they wanted to bring it bigger. And I was thinking like, it's a bomb group and they really love their bomb group. Are other people going to love their bomb group? Like, I don't know how to bring that into a bigger story. So again, it was just sort of designed as an internal DVD to play at reunions and stuff. But then people started handing money in. We got 30,000 the first reunion where we pitched it. We got another 20. We got another 30 after. I mean, people kept handing money in. And the president of the group, who was the second generation guy, said, we want to make this world class. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, you want to do that? And the pressure was on. I was like, I think I could have done the internal, but now they want this to where it can appeal to everybody out there and not just make it what I know the reunions as and what the war was to my grandfather, but really make it universal to where everybody could watch, learn a little bit about the war and this particular bomb group that accomplished a lot during the war and was pivotal in helping basically win at the end. So that essentially was the project. Started 2015, and it went on for a while raising money. And we eventually got distribution last year, and that was in June, actually this time last year exactly. And that was momentous to be able to go from a little internal DVD project and using that money and putting it into good use, basically, and really hiring the pros to come in and do this thing. And me sort of crafting a story that I didn't know was going to be a story, but then going back and get pickups here and then, getting different story elements here and then mushing it all together to where it somewhat makes sense. That's pretty much where, it ended up. So yeah, and it's full distribution now. You can get it on iTunes, Amazon, everywhere.
Yeah, I was just amazed when I watched it. I have to admit, I got teary-eyed numerous times during it, but I just love the way you crafted the stories within the bigger story. And those,
Yeah.
so you really, from whoever was, I'm assuming you were a big part of everything, but the writing and just capturing the emotion of the love affairs and the families that you have over there and having them experience maybe for the first time or just knowing that this documentary was being made and everything else. It was an educational piece, but it touched my heart. I mean, I have to tell you, I was just by the end, I as we say in my language, we were a little verklempt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, those stories were interesting because it was one of those things where you kind of have to look at the footage at the end and see what you got, and you kind of have an idea of where it's going to go. But for instance, Gail, who is the woman in the story whose mother and father married at Hardwick, that I met her on that trip actually in the film. So that was sort of an exploration for me to meet her, get to know her, and then get to know her afterwards as we put the film together and find out more and more. And a lot of the photos that are in the film, in fact, we don't just do a scan of a photo and pop it up full frame. I actually printed out each photo, and some of them are original photos, and laid them out in sort of an art design table. And I went and got some actual artifacts from my grandfather and from other people that donated and laid them out on the table and put the photos behind that. And Gail was the inspiration for that, because at one point she said she could not scan her photos. She couldn't get her scanner to work. So she emailed me her actual original photos. And then I got an idea when I got them, because they're just so amazing the way they're cut on the sides. And so I decided to art up this table and rearrange everything. For every shot is rearranged differently, and the colors kind of go with what's going on as well. So that every single layer gives a little extra bit to it, or a little art direction to it. And Gail's story alone put this sort of heart into the film, aside from all the war stuff that has to be in there and the educational stuff. But she has this real through line that talks about her parents and how they married there. So it was interesting. And I always love when that part shows up in the film, because I'm telling you, just wait. There's something to grab onto here. So yeah, thank you.
No, it's definitely something to grab onto. So I was blessed to have, not just a small little blib in here, but so funny with my Arkansas Razorbacks trying to get into the World Series of Baseball. But, a band member that I went to college with, Jim Root, on Facebook, happened to see where my life has taken me through the years, and he reached out to me and said, boy, can you help out? Do you know anybody? Blah, blah, blah. And my first initial thing was, I really can't think of anybody. And then, I dug through my memory bank, and I remember, because Michael and I we really have only met once through another friend, him and his wife. And we had a wonderful dinner together many moons ago when I was a young man. And I remembered him being in Bands of Brothers, and reached out to him, not knowing what he would say or whatever. But, amazingly, he did a lot of research. I guess he remembered me, but he wanted to make sure I was still this legit cat that he met. And he research on me to see what I had done, and I've done a lot of cause marketing in my time. So he wrote me back and said, I'll agree to do it. So how was that working with Michael? Because he obviously, not to say that the project needed any more validity, but obviously he brings a little bit of the Hollywood piece to it to get people who are maybe just natural viewers to want to watch.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a more broad appeal to have Michael in it, and also, again, thank you for that connection. And it's always a blessing to be able to know that Michael was able to show up and help out. And also Jim Root, of course. I remember sitting at a reunion as we were getting through the first phases of approving this film, and I said, guys, we just need a voice. I mean, I'm gonna have to go to somebody. And it would be nice to maybe put somebody on camera to give it a little validity. So, and that's when Jim possibly called you after that. And that's how that started working in the background. And I thought that Michael was the perfect person selected, because a Tom Hanks, a Gary Sinise, those guys are known to do that stuff, but I mean, I don't even know how busy they are. And it's not that Michael's not busy either, but Michael is, when you meet him, he almost feels like your friend immediately. And I think it was a perfect pick for that because of his credibility. This Band of Brothers is in there, but all his other work just professionally, and knowing that he's a guy in the industry, I was amazed even to just jump on the phone and talk to him, and that he wanted to help out. He honestly, I'll tell you this, and it's a funny story really, because our first sort of public screening was at the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum in Savannah, Georgia. And we had about 300 people there. And I told Michael, it'd be nice if you wanted to show up, because we're going to have a big crowd and this will be the first screening. And he got there and we talked in front of the audience, and he had only seen little pieces of it. And also, doing the voiceover over, I think I met with him 2 or 3 different times. I even had to get him in an LA session. So, as we finished writing, he would come in and do the voiceover. But this is the first time where he's actually kind of seeing it all together. Right. And I saw him, and he kind of tucked back in the back of the auditorium there to watch. And I remember at one point he kind of like stood up and he came over. He was like, "This thing's good. This is like." I was like, Michael, I know you're part of it. So he really, and it's not that he didn't have faith in us, but he kind of thought along the same lines I did in the beginning of like this DVD internal thing. It'll be great for the guys. And he's like, this is bigger. Are you guys planning to? And I was like, yeah, we're planning to go further, and we eventually want to get distribution. So he really, thought that he was kind of done at that point. And not to say that he, wouldn't continue on, but he was like, all right, did it, great. Hope you enjoy your internal DVD video. But he realized that it was a little something after that. So he was at 3 film festivals with me. Anything that I needed from him on a text or a call, anything pertaining to film, he always responds and gets back. So I think he really understood that this was something bigger than what he kind of signed up for. But for him to stick with it for so long really shows you his dedication and what kind of person he is. And he's just that guy working. That's really what he is. He's out there working hard. And obviously with his new show Clarice and all the great reviews it's getting, I mean, it's right in line with what he needs to be doing.
And Return to Hardwick has won like 7 awards, right?
It's one. I don't tally them up, but yeah, it's somewhere around there, nominations and stuff. So Michael and I, our last film festival officially was Sedona International Film Festival, and that was last year, February. And he showed up. He was able to show up, and we were there at a couple screenings. And how nice is that to be able to have the talent show up with you and introduce the film and chat a little bit. I mean, everybody on that audience got a little treat, because I don't even know if it was really heavily promoted that he was going to be there. So to be able to get that connection with him and be right there was awesome. I mean, it's like the best thing you can add. So that was really the cap to our sort of film festival run through 2019 at the top of 2020, which actually worked out because of COVID, because once March hit, everything shut down. It was pretty scary at that point. But then we got distribution, and everybody can then watch it over their TV.
Right. And it's unfortunate that you and I have only seen each other twice, or we've talked a little bit, but we only seen each other twice virally. You were nice enough to on to a MagicCon.
MagicCon, yep.
Kind of way before the film was even being released. And I hope you don't mind repeating one story question I asked you is that during your filming of Return to Hardwick with Michael, he was in a major twist in The Walking Dead, and he kind of knew what was going on, but I guess you didn't. And of course, I'm a fan of the show, so I didn't know what was going on. And I guess he was able to keep that under wrap, or did you actually find that happening?
No, so the story behind that is in 2016, I believe that far back now, 2016, 2017, he agreed to help us out, and I wanted to do an on-camera introduction, which is in Return to Hardwick currently. If you go online and watch it, it's there. And he's standing in front of a B-25 at a museum in Long Island, the American Air Power Museum. Great setting, him standing there. But when he shows up and he sort of apologized, he's got the handlebar mustache and he's got the red hair and he looks like Abraham. And he's like, I toned it down a little bit, but unfortunately I can't get rid of it. We're still shooting, And I'm like, okay, yeah. I said, but so you're still shooting, but what's happening? Because I saw it, and I started talking to him about that season at the end, the finale there. And he's like, don't do it. He's like, don't do it. Don't talk about it. So that night, that day we shot, and then I hung out with him and we were walking around a little bit. Of course, him in that, everybody recognizes him. We're walking around. He's like, what happened to you? What happened? They're all asking too. And he's like, oh, don't, he's like pushing it off. Fast forward and you watch the first episode of the next season and you realize what happened. So the story is that they actually paid him to be in that character for almost a year, even though he was not going to be in the next season. Right. And they needed to let people know that Abraham's still around. Even if you see him in real life, he's still around. And he had to keep that a secret for a while. So I guess he was getting paid during that time to just stay on contract and be like he's part of the crew. and that hid the surprise of basically what happened with Negan at the top of that season.
Right. And I know he directed a couple. In fact, I heard he's actually going to go back and direct some of the last season here coming up. So that's fantastic. So we're almost out of time here, but I got two quick fun questions.
Sure.
Yep. One is that I saw that you were involved with the costume malfunction Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. So I actually was not there, but I worked on an MTV piece that featured it, and it actually showed up at the halftime show. So that Super Bowl where the event happened, that I guess it showed in the beginning. There was a video that showed before Timberlake and Janet Jackson came out. That's the only part I have in it. It's that I edited the video before that happened.
There you go. There you go. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, but and it's probably a hard question, but favorite movie of all time?
Lawrence of Arabia.
Nice. Nice.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that film. David Lean. Yeah.
You know, it's funny when you go, if you ever get out to LA and you go to Paramount Studios, when you walk in they have a tour there where they, take you around.
Yeah.
You go in there, that's the first picture that you see is a shot.
Oh, is it?
I'm riding in a truck filming Lawrence of Arabia. It's amazing if you ever get out.
Amazing, yeah. Cinematographer Freddie Young. I had a cinematographer teacher in college that worked with him, and he would go on and on about stories and stuff. But yeah, Lawrence of Arabia is it. My wife somehow thinks I'm crazy, but because the movie's so long and it's involved and it goes over history but if you just sit down and watch it and get into it a little bit, it will grab you. It'll grab you all the way to the end.
Great movie. So listen, you're to be commended for Return to Hardwick. Again, I wanted to get back to that and end with that. I know again,
thank you.
Love for you. I know that the greatest generation that you're saluting there, that probably since you've did the film, that we've lost a couple of those brothers, to whatever, especially with the pandemic. But you're to be commended for that, and it's so great that we'll have this forever to remember.
Right.
The people like your grandfather and all the other people involved. And again, I applaud you for adding, the stories within the story that really kind of kept you, going past the educational piece and grab your heart, grabbed your mind, and kind of the place inside of you to really appreciate what these patriots did for us, not only in the United States, but over in the UK.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we just got UK distribution too on iTunes. So that was a big step to be able to do that and basically bring it back home. Everybody was asking about that. Yeah, thank you. It's literally for the group, and then it also represents all the other bomb groups during that time. It's the same. The story is similar with all these other groups that went through that. So it's basically to honor them. But thank you, Doug.
You, Michael. I appreciate you taking the time with us today. Good luck on all the things that you're doing. My friend, I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful week.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.